Farm Week is a production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today on Farm Week, the U.S. House of Representatives starts work on its version of the Farm Bill. More than 100 amendments have been proposed.
The MSU Extension Service started it 96 years ago. The Mississippi Homemaker Volunteers group is still serving state residents.
In Southern Gardening, summer baskets. You can enjoy these eye-catching treats up close in the shade.
In the markets, cotton's 2-week price rally runs out of steam. But corn and soybeans gain some momentum as the June 28th acreage report approaches.
In the feature segment, Tim Mahan, the Mississippi Forestry Association's Outstanding Logger of the Year. This Northeast Mississippi logger and his wife worked their way into the logging business. He must love it. He quit and later came back as an owner.
I don't want them talking about the clutter that's left. I hear them talking about some logging jobs that just leaves buckets and garbage, and that's one of my pet peeves is the garbage. I don't want it all over the job.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Artis Ford. Welcome to Farm Week.
The U.S. House of Representatives is working hard on its version of the Farm Bill, and it could pass by week's end.
Well, Leighton, as we record this show on Thursday, the Republican-controlled House is working its way through more than 100 potential amendments to the Farm Bill that was passed out of the House Ag Committee. Democrats tried to restore $20.5 billion to SNAP, also known as food stamps, but this was defeated. The House Farm Bill has proposed double the amount of food stamps cuts as the Senate version, which passed June 10th. This promises to be a sticking point when the House and Senate try to work out their differences. President Obama has threatened to veto the House proposed food stamp cuts, saying that 2 million people could lose their benefits. A new price loss program for southern rice and peanut producers survived a challenge. The program is designed to make up for the shortcomings of the crop insurance program. Crop insurance does not offer rice and peanuts the same protection it does corn and soybeans. U.S. Senate Ag Committee Chairwoman Debbie Stabenow said that she hoped that the Congress will have a farm bill on President Obama's desk by September.
Since 1917, the Mississippi Homemaker Volunteers program has helped strengthen families through education and community involvement. Operated by the Mississippi State University Extension Service, activities are offered in food science, arts and crafts, gardening, community service, and more. At the annual MHV State Council, the program showcased a makeover by delivering trendy workshop topics. Farm Week's Amy Taylor reports.
As popularity increases for all things DIY, Mississippi Homemaker Volunteers are putting a new spin on old knowledge and skills. For example, Mississippi State University Extension Service Union County agent Stanley Wise says home gardening is back in style.
There's a lot of young people now who want to learn how to garden. The thing is, they don't have time to do what the old timers used to do, to stay at home and where they could work that garden every day. So we're trying to teach some techniques like we're talking about with this container gardening and maybe plastic culture gardening and using landscape fabric and things to block the weeds so they can go in and plant them, water them, and keep them watered every day, but they don't have to worry about the weeds. And the Extension Service is a good way to get that information to help those people.
Wise says you can plant vegetables in hay bales, garbage bags, or old car tires. Meanwhile, Extension Family and Consumer Sciences agent Natasha Haynes says the arts and crafts facet of MHV provides some interaction with a younger generation.
Mississippi Homemaker Volunteers does a lot for the community. Of course, one of the projects is the therapy dolls, which are given to the Children's Hospital. Those dolls help children understand the importance of their medicine. It explains to a child how the medicine will be administered. When you show a child that you're going to give them a needle, that's scary. But when you put the needle in the therapy doll, then they understand, oh, okay, this is what you're getting ready to do, and it might hurt a little bit. So therapy dolls are one of the biggest things. They also do layettes for babies. They do wheelchair covers. They do a variety of projects.
Additionally, soap making was on the annual MHV State Council agenda, along with t-shirt jewelry, paper quilling, ribbon angels, electronic technology, an impressive cultural arts gallery, and even lessons on self-defense. From Mississippi State University, I'm Amy Taylor reporting.
Now let's check on the Mississippi Weekly Crop Report from the Mississippi Ag Statistics Service in Jackson. This report reflects conditions as of last Sunday, June 16th. As we look at topsoil moisture in the state, it's finally getting out of the super surplus category. Adequate in 87% of the state, but some need some rain. 10% of the state is short of soil moisture. Mississippi soybeans, crops almost planted. 91% of the crop has emerged, which is behind the 5-year average for the state. As we look at Mississippi cotton, we see that all the crops finally planted. 93% of the crop has emerged, which is still behind the 5-year average for the state. And as far as squaring goes, it's way behind, and that's because the majority of it was planted late. As we look at Mississippi rice, 99% of the crop has emerged, which matches the 5-year average for this state, but a lot of that crop was planted late. So look at Mississippi Mississippi peanuts now. 63% of the crop harvested as of planted as of June 16th, and that is 25 points behind the 5-year average for this state. But the warmer weather, though, 38% of the crop is pegging, and that is far ahead of the 5-year average. So look at Mississippi sweet potatoes. All of the crop is planted according to the Ag Statistics Service, and they've been moving that up each year. So actually our 5-year average is not reflecting what farmers are actually doing. Well, do you wish sometimes that you could garden in the shade? In this week's Southern Gardening segment, Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman shows us how hanging baskets can bring the summer landscape to the porch and patio for easy enjoyment.
Hanging baskets are a great way to bring the summer landscape up close to the house. And I'd like to share some new ways to look at pretty hanging baskets.
Today I'm at JDS Nursery enjoying their summer hanging baskets. Home gardeners really like the look of colorful combination containers on the patio. This same look can be achieved in hanging baskets. Look at this gorgeous combination basket with these colorful plants. Yellow Noah calibrachoa, deep pink Lanai verbena, brilliant blue scavola, and diamond blush euphorbia creates a colorful and warm presence. Summer hanging baskets don't have to have colorful flowers to be gorgeous. Foliage baskets can be equally attractive. An interesting example is dichondra, which is a spreading ground cover-like plant that is a great choice for baskets. Emerald Falls has dark green foliage, and Silver Falls is an icy silvery gray. Both varieties spill out over the basket edge with a conical shape. Dichondra is heat and drought tolerant. It makes a good summer choice for hanging in the morning sun to partial shade. I'm always looking for new plants for hanging baskets and never thought about using mint before. Mint is the kudzu of herbs, so if you plant it in the ground, you may have to move in a few years. But growing in a basket makes perfect sense, where it's easy to enjoy the sweet aroma when touched. There are several varieties that have different textures and smells.
What could be better on a hot summer day than picking fresh sprigs of mint for your refreshing julep? I'm horticulturist Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
Now, Leighton Gary says as a general rule, hanging baskets need more frequent watering than in-ground plants, but just like in-ground plants, you need to make sure they have good drainage. Well, in the feature segment today, the Mahans of Golden, Mississippi didn't grow up in the logging business, but they have learned from some of the best. Now they're the outstanding loggers of the year. And before we get to the markets, the South area of the Soil and Water Conservation Districts in Mississippi gathered Tuesday for their summer meeting in Bassfield. The district invited Farmweek and this reporter to give the keynote address. I spoke on how to get notice in the media for Soil and Water Conservation District programs. I also talked about how mobile devices like smartphones and social media are changing the way that the districts will communicate with their clients in the future. Howard Industries of Ellisville was honored with the Friends of Conservation Award. And Layton, in the last year, in the South area, volunteers with the earth teams of the USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service donated more than 3,800 hours of volunteer work. Our hats are off to them. And thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, we met a lot of those good volunteers.
We had a good time down there. Time for the markets now with Layton. And Layton, the monthly cattle on feed report is out.
And we'll be talking about what those numbers may mean for the beef sector coming up. Also ahead in the markets this week, the real surprise of those June 12th crop reports. Cotton prices lose momentum, and the recent Smithfield sale to China may help the U.S. pork market. We start by discussing the government's latest crop and supply demand reports and what the numbers may mean for the corn and soybean markets. Extension Ag economist John Michael Riley says that while national corn yield was reduced, the acreage number was unchanged from the May report, and that was a real surprise. Well, let's begin, John Michael, with new crop corn, and their yield was actually reduced, projected yield.
That's right, about a bushel and a half smaller. It's at 156.5 bushels per acre, the projected yield for the nation. Many were looking for the yield number to actually increase very marginally. Obviously, we're talking about a long way out, but some were the average of analyst estimates were looking for that number to increase. USDA actually decreased that number, but so yeah, 156.5 is where we're currently sitting with a projected yield.
Now the new crop acreage, that was not changed at all.
That's right. That's where the real surprise came. Many expected the acres number to be decreased by 2 million acres, largely due to the fact that planting has been so slow, so much rain, so cold, such a cold spring. All of these factors combined, I think there was an expectation that people switched away from corn. USDA is always hesitant to make sweeping changes this early in the season until we get better information to make those judgment calls. And to be honest, given the big demand for corn, I think you're talking about moving away from a fairly high value crop. So I'm not surprised that USDA did not make that change, but the industry was looking for that to take place.
So there's always a possibility we could see that happen down the road in another USDA report.
End of this month we get the acreage or the final acreage report, so we'll know a lot more about where that sits the June 30th or whenever the end of the month when that report is released.
All right, let's talk about soybeans a minute. Both old and new crop, no changes there in the projections.
That's right, and there was an expectation that some of those corn acres that were going to be gone would switch over to soybeans, so they thought of 1 million extra acres of soybeans, a slight reduction in yield. Neither of those came to fruition, and so across the board for the new crop soybeans, no changes were made. It's currently sitting at a 265 bushel ending stock number, carryover number, so that was where we were at last month.
But it's still a tight situation for beans, right?
It remains tight. It's loosening up from where we are right now, but it will remain a very tight situation.
December cotton futures remained in the red Thursday morning. Supporting the down move was a Wednesday acreage estimate from a Memphis private firm anticipating an increase in U.S. plantings from the March intentions report. DTN analyst Darren Newsom notes that the cotton rally was contra-seasonal to begin with. In this market-to-market interview, Newsom says he is expecting a loss of momentum, which indeed has happened.
We just continue to see the ending stocks of cotton continue to be whittled back as far as the new crop goes. So we've got a great deal of commercial buying coming in. Again, the D-Smart spread has moved to a very strong inverse, indicating a lot of concern over supply and demand. So you add that into some money coming back into the cotton market short term on the idea we're going to have tighter supplies, and it's been enough to push the market higher. Can it maintain this rally? If it does, it'll be a bit of a contra-seasonal move. So I would not be surprised to see it lose a little bit of momentum in here, start to come under some pressure again, maybe having nothing to do with supply and demand, more to do with the flow in and out of markets from investors.
We prepared a transition to the livestock side of the markets with a trivia quiz for you about Mississippi's dairy industry. June is Dairy Month after all. And here's the quiz question. What was the top milk producing county in Mississippi in 2012? Is the answer A, Marion, or B, Marshall, C, Lincoln, or D, Walthall? You'll find out the right choice before our feature story.
We're going to pause for a short break on Farm Week. Coming up, we'll look at the calendar and the second part of the markets. Leighton Spann reports that fed cattle numbers are shrinking while the Smithfield sale appears to be good for the hog market. In the feature segment today, the Mahans of Golden are known for their work ethic and the environmental nature of their work. They're also the Mississippi Forestry Association's Outstanding Loggers of the Year.
At Mississippi State University, Extension is reaching beyond the college campus and impacting adult education. We're instructing agricultural professionals on the latest trends in research and technology, inspiring communities, empowering small businesses, and promoting the growth of healthy families where youth and adults can reach their fullest potential.
The MSU Extension Service, sharing our vision for the future.
Before we get back to the markets, let's look at the Farmweek calendar. The 2013 North Mississippi Dairy Field Day will be Tuesday, June 25th. It takes place at the North Mississippi Research and Extension Center of Mississippi State University at Verona. The hours are 8:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. The outlook for dairy prices and dairy feed and milk prices are among the items on the agenda. Pasture-based systems in dairy production will be covered. The field day will move the next day to South Mississippi to the Southwest Event Center at Tylertown. Mississippi State University is hosting its annual warm season grass forage tour on Saturday, July 13th. The free tour will take place on the South Farm at MSU. The tour will run from 8 to 11 a.m. Warm season legumes, nitrogen fertility, Bermuda grass, and Bahia grass will be featured. Lunch will be served, so please pre-register. Go to our Farm Week website at farmweek.msucares.com for information on these and other events. Now check out this week's Farm Week Snapshot.
The expectation ahead of the Friday afternoon cattle on feed report was that it should show tighter numbers. Well, Dow Jones Newswires reported traders see placements onto feed during May at 95.9% of a year ago on improved pasture conditions and fewer imports from Mexico. Their analysis does note that any bullishness from the numbers could be muted by high feed prices and increased numbers of market-ready cattle by late summer. Meanwhile, for analyst Don Roos, the situation for the broader cattle sector can be boiled down to one question: is beef going to lose market share? Here's how he sees it.
The feeder cattle supplies, are pretty tight. They're going to be tight going forward. But the whole beef situation boils down to what's the consumer going to bear, and do we lose market share going forward? And all of that's going to be something that we're going to sort out in the marketplace going forward. I think what we're going to find is that beef is still going to be very much in big demand.
This month began with the news that a Virginia-based hog producer, the world's largest, is being acquired by a Chinese company. Analyst John Roach says he believes the situation is good for hog producers and the U.S. pork industry as a whole.
They've had problems with food quality and adulterated food and so forth, and so purchasing a brand, an American brand that is very well respected in this country, will be very well respected in China, and that's probably the biggest opportunity in this transaction. Is that now you have a branded product that you can sell in China, and maybe even some Chinese pork under that brand, but that branding opportunity is probably the biggest advantage, and I think that helps the U.S. pork market as well as helping the Chinese.
Before our feature story, let's check the trivia answer for the week, and the correct choice is A. Marion County produced 28 million pounds of milk in 2012, and that puts Marion in the #1 slot as far as milk production in Mississippi.
Our feature story today is about Tim Mahan of Golden, Mississippi, the Mississippi Forestry Association's Outstanding Logger of the Year. Most loggers get into the business because their father or an uncle was already involved. Mahan's story is different. He comes from a non-logging family. Mahan did work in logging for a while, quit, and ended up returning to logging, this time as an owner.
I don't want them talking about the clutter that's left. I hear them talking about some logging jobs that just leaves buckets and garbage, and that's one of my pet peeves is the garbage. I don't want it all over the job.
Tim and Lisa Mahan of Golden did not grow up in the logging business. Both, however, had worked in it prior to deciding to start their own logging company in 2005. At the time, Mahan was a long-haul truck driver. A desire to get off the road and work locally prompted Mahan to call Harold Russell, his previous logging employer. Mahan had managed a thinning crew for Russell. Russell said that he was downsizing his operation. To Mahan's surprise, Russell offered to let him take over a logging crew and its equipment, paying for it as Mahan harvested.
I was in disbelief, and then I thought, well, you know, I knew how hard Tim worked, and I knew, you know, he ran it before for Mr. Russell, and I knew we could do it.
That was 7.5 years ago. The Mahans were on a 4-man woods crew with 2 over-the-road truck drivers. All the Southern Forestry crew is CPR trained. The only lost time accident occurred when a substitute filled in one day.
Almost all of them have been here from the beginning that work in the woods. The truck drivers, probably 3 to 4 years on them.
Forestry consultant Don Thompson nominated Mahan for Mississippi's Outstanding Logger of the Year because of Mahan's integrity. Thompson said Mahan places his loading decks and roads so they will cause as little damage as possible during the logging and after he leaves.
They're going to leave the job in good shape, and I think that's what most of our erosion in forestry, a lot of it's coming from our skid trails and roads, and when Tim gets through, he brushes those roads up so they don't wash away, and that really helps a whole lot for erosion and also helps just make the forest more sustainable.
Mahan does most of his cutting for F&W Forestry Services, which manages the timberland formerly held by Packaging Corporation of America. F&W logging supervisor Jason Potts also nominated Mahan for the award. Potts said Mahan and his crew follow the tenets of the Sustainable Forestry Initiative and best management practices. Potts said Mahan's crew recently made a perfect score on a BMP audit, the first 100% Potts has given.
And he cares about what he's doing out here. And all his crew members do too. That's kind of unusual. Most, you know, on some long jobs, some people don't care at all. You know, they just want to draw a paycheck. But all his people, they care about what they do.
Potts also compliments Mahan on the appearance of his trucks on the highway.
Got nice trucks, good-looking trucks. He keeps them washed on, nice trailers. He'll pull the trailers in and keep them washed. You know, public opinion, to me, going up and down the road, you know, means something.
Efficiency is one reason Mahan's over-the-road trucks look good. They never enter the woods. Pull-out or set-out trucks take the trailers in and out of the woods to a staging area. The over-the-road trucks drop off empty trailers and pick up loaded ones.
The road trucks just can come and go without the hindrance of coming in, and if it takes 2 trucks to haul what we're hauling now and us setting them out, it's going to take at least 3 or 4 trucks to come in here and load because of the time that it takes to do it. And if you pay them by the load, they're not going to get paid as much at the end of the week because they're not going to get as many loads sitting in here waiting to load.
Thompson says Mahan likes to get topographic maps of the areas he logs. These maps show elevation changes, letting Mahan place the woods roads where they will cause the least erosion.
I like to know the layout of the land, and I like to plan my tracks. I like to plan my loading places, and I like, if we have to build a new road that there's not an existing road and we have to build one, I want to build that road at the best area that I can.
Mahan gives credit to his crew for his success.
They know what I expect, and I do expect a lot out of them at times, because it's important to me to be a good steward of the land. It's important to me to be safe, and sometimes it takes time to do that.
Mahan's wife, Lisa, is the company's bookkeeper, but she can run a knuckle boom loader if needed. Lisa and Tim have a daughter, Brianna. They are active members of the Walker Missionary Baptist Church.
I don't know, it gets in your blood, the logging. You either love it or hate it.
Lisa Mahan says they have to be willing to work hard and plan, but it is possible for young people to start a logging business.
to younger people that want to do this. There is a need for future loggers.
So I thought it was really unique that Tim had the opportunity to get in the logging business without having a generation of loggers behind him. And that tends to show young people coming up that there's a place for them if they're willing to get out there and do the work.
Well, Leighton, I talked to Tim. That story first aired on Farmweek, excuse me, last fall. Talked to Tim, and he has been honored with the South Central United States Logger of the Year, which now means he will be going after the national title, which, I mean, after you've been with Tim, you see that that doesn't surprise you that happened. He says that he has expanded his operation some. He's added a couple of trucks and some other equipment, and his diesel bill, it's over 10 grand a week. So that's what people are doing to bring wood and fiber out of the woods for us. Well, we are at the end of Farm Week for this week. On our next show, how much does it cost to raise a crop?
Many figure that you have to make the biggest yield regardless of cost. We'll find out about a program that is trying to figure out what it does cost to produce a crop, and it's challenging some traditional assumptions.
In Southern Gardening, we'll visit a backyard resort. Be sure to watch and discover some ideas to make one of your own. For the rest of the Farm Week crew, I'm Artist Ford.
And I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.